Boss Lin asked me to fix his cheap everyday beater, but I just straight up turned it into a transformer. Auntie Lee from next door asked me to change the battery on her tricycle, so I flipped the script and slapped a nuclear reactor in it. I made every single street punk on the block cry out of pure jealousy, all because I bonded with an invincible modification system. Every single ride that passes through my hands turns into an absolute god-tier machine, no exceptions. I just wanted to lay low and keep leveling up my skills, but who would have thought that the wrecked, battle-damaged motorcycle I fixed for old Wong next door would actually send a 100-ton heavy truck flying. Overnight, a massive line formed right outside my shop. Even the National Science Academy came knocking, asking if I could rebuild an 8th-generation fighter jet with nothing but a single screw. Right now, I was in the shop tinkering with some parts, when Uncle Wong from next door dragged a motorcycle inside. "Hey Wei, be a good kid and take a look for your uncle, will ya? This bike got into a little accident, think you can still fix it up?" I took one look at the motorcycle beside Uncle Wong, and my mouth instantly started twitching. Oh boy, there wasn't a single piece of this bike that wasn't completely trashed. The only thing on it that didn't make a noise was the damn horn. Uncle Wong saw my expression and gave an awkward little laugh. "Uncle's been a little tight on cash lately. Think you can just patch it up enough so I can keep using it? You know your buddy FA is still trying to pass his college entrance exams, right? The family really needs every penny right now. Just make it safe enough to ride on the road, that's all I ask." Hearing this, I was completely speechless. Uncle Wang's son had been retaking the damn exam for 5 whole years, and he still couldn't even get into a second-tier college. But looking at Uncle Wang's desperately hopeful face, I just let out a silent sigh. I walked up and gave the bike a really thorough look over. "Alright then, I'll see what I can do." Seeing me agree, Uncle Wang practically bolted out the door, terrified I might change my mind. I shook my head helplessly, fired up my system, and locked it onto the motorcycle in front of me. Seeing the 95% damage rate pop up made my eye twitch again. But thinking back to what Uncle Wang just said, I typed maximize safety performance into the modification goals, and set the budget at $500. Almost instantly, the system generated a custom blueprint based on the requirements. Without wasting another breath, I grabbed my tools and got to work. 7 hours later, I stared at the completely reborn motorcycle sitting in front of me. My heart was absolutely bursting with pride. Not only was the entire frame forged from a special alloy, pushing its durability to the absolute limit, but the real kicker was the custom safety force field I built into it. The protection mechanisms were cranked all the way up to max. The very next day, the moment I opened the shop, Uncle Wong showed up. I pointed at the bike parked by the door. "Here you go, Uncle Wong. This is it, not too shabby, huh?" Uncle Wong took one look and his jaw completely dropped. He inspected it up, down, left, and right in total disbelief. Finally, he pulled out his keys and started the engine, only then daring to believe it was actually his bike. "Hey, your skills are absolutely unreal. If you ask me, your old man should have handed this shop over to you years ago." I just gave a cheeky laugh, not daring to touch that comment. I flashed an 8 with my fingers and grinned at Uncle Wong. $800, Uncle Wong. Pretty fair price, right? Uncle Wong glanced at the absolute beast of a bike next to him. He happily whipped out the cash, paid me, and immediately gunned the throttle, zooming straight back home. When Uncle Wang's son, Wong Da, got home from school, he spotted this incredibly sick motorcycle parked in the yard. His eyes instantly lit up. Well damn, the old geezer actually dropped some cash on a brand new ride. He sneaked into the house, swiped the keys, hopped on, and cranked the throttle hard. Then he whipped out his phone and fired up a live stream. "What's up, bros? My dad just bought me a brand new ride today. Come on, let's take this baby out for a spin." Saying that, he hit the road, streaming the whole thing live. Random viewers who stumbled into the stream were instantly hooked by the bike's ridiculously cool design. The chat went crazy trying to guess the brand. Seeing his viewer count skyrocketing, Dafa's ego swelled. He was absolutely loving the attention. "Alright boys, I'm heading out to the empty roads on the edge of town right now. Let me show you guys how fast this beast can really go." True to his word, he revved all the way to the outskirts. He was still chatting with his fans while speeding down the street. But suddenly, a massive wave of exclamation marks flooded the chat. "Streamer, watch out, there's a massive truck right in front of you. Hit the brakes." Wong Defa snapped his head up, only to see a massive semi-truck driving the wrong way, barreling straight toward him. It was barely 10 meters away. For a split second, Wang Defa was absolutely paralyzed with panic. He tried to slam on the brakes, but in his sheer terror, he accidentally stomped right on the gas. In the livestream chat, everyone's heart leapt into their throats. Half the viewers completely covered their eyes. That was a 100-ton monster truck. Forget about a flimsy motorcycle. Even a regular car hitting it head-on would be instantly flattened. Everyone could already picture the horrific tragedy that was about to unfold. But then, in the very next second, something completely unimaginable happened. Looking through the camera lens, the semi-truck's left bumper completely shattered on impact. The entire rig swerved wildly, and somehow flipped entirely on its side. An entire load of sand spilled out everywhere. Luckily, the truck driver reacted quickly and scrambled out of the cab. But looking back at the motorcycle, it literally just wobbled a tiny bit. The entire livestream chat was left absolutely speechless. They couldn't even believe their own eyes. Holy crap, what on earth just happened? That was a 100-ton semi-truck. How did it just get flipped over by a freaking motorcycle? Wait, where's the streamer? Hitting it at that speed, he's gotta be dead by now, right? Sigh. Lighting a virtual candle for the bro. I'll send a gift in the chat as a tribute. Rest in peace, man. Hope there are no semi-trucks in heaven. Meanwhile, Wang Defa finally snapped out of his daze. The moment that violent crash happened, he honestly thought he was a goner. But out of nowhere, something exactly like a car's airbag popped out of the motorcycle's dashboard. Not only did it absorb the massive impact, it also locked him completely safe and secure in his seat. Wang Defa took a huge breath and patted his chest to calm down. Then, he caught a glimpse of the livestream chat, and the whole screen was just flooded with rest in peace comments. Annoyed and speechless, he quickly flipped the camera to his face. Guys, I didn't kick the bucket. I'm still alive. The sudden appearance of Wang Defa's face literally gave everyone a heart attack. What the hell? Am I looking at a freaking ghost? Bro, I literally just sent you a rocket donation. Please don't come back to haunt me. Just cross over peacefully, man. Tell the chat if you have any unfulfilled dying wishes. We'll do our best to make it happen for you. Nobody in the chat could actually believe that Wang Defa was still a living, breathing person. I mean, even a 100-ton semi had flipped over. How on earth could the guy on the motorcycle be totally fine? Wang Defa looked up ahead. The truck driver, who was crouching down inspecting his smashed bumper, and patiently kept explaining. Guys, I swear I'm really alive. You gotta believe in science here. After a whole bunch of explaining, the viewers finally bought Wang Defa's story. But then, a totally new wave of confusion hit them. Wait, that makes no sense. Why are you completely fine when that heavy truck got totally wrecked? Honestly, Wang Defa was just as baffled himself. He scratched his head and mumbled, maybe this bike is just totally overpowered? Honestly, I don't know how else to explain it. As he spoke, Wang Defa took a good look at his motorcycle, and his jaw just dropped. Not only was the front of the bike completely untouched, there wasn't even a single scratch on the headlight. It was absolutely outrageous. He instantly flipped back to his rear camera, and did a close-up pan of the whole bike. The entire livestream chat was just completely stunned. No freaking way. That is mathematically impossible. You hit a semi-truck and there's not even a single dent? Wait, dude, did you stage this entire thing just to sell motorcycles? You know what? After pulling a stunt this insane, just drop the shopping link, man. I'll buy one right now. Just as Wang Defa opened his mouth to explain, an angry, cursing voice stomped closer and closer. Do you even know how to freaking drive? Look what you did to my rig. You're paying me for this today. Wang Defa snapped. Oh, hell no. The guy was literally driving on the wrong side of the road, and now he's demanding money? He immediately got into a shouting match with the truck driver, while passing drivers kept pulling over to watch the drama unfold. I mean, a motorcycle flipping over a heavy-duty truck? That's just wild. Seeing the two of them going at it without backing down, the onlookers eagerly called the cops. It didn't take long for the boys in blue to show up. The truck driver immediately rushed forward, playing the victim to get the upper hand. Officer, this punk was speeding on his bike and crashed right into me. Just look at this, my bumper is completely shattered. Just drive this big rig to make a living, man. You've gotta help me out here. The truck driver finished his little speech with a pitiful look on his face. Right at the moment of impact, he had already swerved back into the correct lane. Plus, there were no traffic cameras on this stretch of road. If he could just pin the blame on the kid, he could at least recover some of his losses. However, Traffic Police Captain Lee Jiangguo was absolutely baffled. A motorcycle flipping a heavy-duty truck? How does that even make sense? Seeing Lee Jiangguo staying quiet, Wang Defa thought the captain had actually bought the truck driver's lies. Panicking, he tossed everything else aside, held up his phone and yelled, "Officer! He was clearly driving on the wrong side of the road and hit me. I've got the evidence right here." Saying that, he ignored the groans of his viewers and abruptly ended his livestream. He pulled up the livestream playback. Captain Lee Jiangguo took the phone, and his jaw practically dropped. It really was a motorcycle flipping a heavy-duty truck. That was absolutely unheard of. He circled the motorcycle over and over again, clicking his tongue in sheer amazement. Then, he glared at the truck driver and barked, "Did you really think you could just spout nonsense just because there are no cameras here? Look at the tire marks on the ground. Do you think we're all blind?" The truck driver sheepishly rubbed his nose, lowered his head, and shut his mouth. Seeing this, Wang Defa perked up excitedly. "Officer, does that mean I'm off the hook? Can I get out of here now? 'Cause if I get home late, my old man is gonna beat me black and blue." Lee Jiangguo let out a cold snort. He tossed the phone back to Wang Defa and scolded him, "Even though you weren't speeding. Messing with your phone and live streaming while riding is dangerous driving. Stop treating your own life like a joke. You got lucky this time, but what about the next? I'm giving you a severe warning and a fine of 200 yuan. Wang Defa dropped his head in defeat. By the time he finished all the paperwork and got home, it was already pitch black outside. And to no one's surprise, he got the absolute crap beaten out of him. Meanwhile, a trending topic titled "Motorcycle Flips 100-ton Truck" was blowing up all over social media. But netizens were super skeptical about the whole thing. What is this, another major breakthrough in AI? Man, these fake videos are getting way too realistic. Gotta admit though, the design of that bike is absolutely sick. I bet the truck was already tipping over, and the motorcycle just happened to bump into it at the exact right moment. Otherwise, there's absolutely no way that could happen. Peefed, that's nothing. When I was a kid, I crashed my bicycle straight into a massive truck. And I walked away without a scratch. Oh yeah? Well, I got run over by a semi-truck when I was little. And I only had to stay in the hospital for 2 weeks. Just needed 2 shots of formalin, and I was good as new. You guys call that tough? A huge truck came barreling right at me, and I just slide-tackled the damn thing and flipped it right over. Okay, you guys in the comments need to chill. The online discussion kept spiraling further and further off the rails. By the end of it, everyone was completely convinced it was just a staged skit. Meanwhile, on a private island somewhere, a man dressed head to toe in gold, right down to his pure gold leather shoes, was staring at the motorcycle on the news with his eyes gleaming. "Butler, go find out exactly where they bought that bike. I want it, right now." As for me, I was completely oblivious to the whole internet frenzy. I was just sitting in the shop, bored out of my mind. Sighing heavily as I looked around the completely empty repair shop, I was hoping to make some quick cash on the side while old Lin was out. But who would have thought that in 2 whole days, Uncle Wang's job was the only gig I got? Man, who knows when I'll finally score a big payday. Right as I was thinking that, a flashy, golden figure suddenly descended from the sky. I took a closer look, and in walked this guy dripping in gold suit, gold shoes. Dressed like an absolute show-off. He strolled right into the shop, looking around the place with a look of pure disgust. Noticing me staring at him, he crossed his arms over his chest and demanded, "So, you must be Lin Wei, huh? The name's Jin Gui, but you can call me Young Master Jin. I heard you're the one who modded Wang Defa's ride. I've got a bike here that needs some tuning too." Hearing a paying customer walk in, I immediately bowed and scraped, rushing over to welcome him. "Whatever you need, Young Master Jin, just say the word. I can mod absolutely any ride in this shop, guaranteed to blow your mind." Jin Gui gave a satisfied smirk, then waved casually toward the door. Immediately, 2 massive bodyguards wheeled in a motorcycle. The moment I laid eyes on that bike, my jaw dropped. It was an actual, professional-grade racing motorcycle. He wasn't here for repairs, he was totally just showing off his cash. Seeing my mind utterly blown, Jin Gui chuckled softly and went on, "I'm giving you a 1 million deposit up front. As for my demands, I want speed, the faster, the better. If I love what you do with it, I'll throw in even more cash." Butler, swipe the card. With that, Jin Gui arrogantly slipped on his sunglasses and strutted right out of the shop. I just stood there frozen, completely spaced out. $1 million? Are all rich people this reckless with their money? While I was still trying to process it, Jin's butler pulled out a bank card with a warm smile and said, "Mr. Lin Wei, it has been a very long time since I've seen the young master smile quite so happily. Please, you absolutely must do your best work. Whatever you do, do not let our young master down." Yes, absolutely. I nodded frantically, whipping out the card reader. After seeing off Jin Gui and his crew, I checked the balance on that card over and over again. The more zeros I counted, the faster my heart raced. Honestly, making this much cash without spending a little just felt wrong. So, I sprinted straight down to the used car market. I dropped $10,000 on a beat-up used car for myself. The second I got back to the shop, I booted up my modification system and locked onto my new junker. The system flagged the damage level at 83%. Rubbing my hands together, I eagerly typed in my modification goal, Transformer Autobot. But instantly, a giant red triangle flashed on the screen. Warning, current level does not support this action. Please upgrade your system to level 4 first. Ah, man, I let out a heavy sigh of disappointment. So, I lowered my expectations and typed in, all-terrain land, sea, and air vehicle. Thank God, it actually went through this time. When it came to the mod budget, I thought about it for a second and punched in 950,000. Hey, this was my very first personal ride, right? I had to treat myself a little. Jin Gui had just handed me a 1 million advance, after all. I spent 10,000 buying the car, and now 950,000 on the mods. That left 40,000. Plenty enough to push Jin Gui's bike to its absolute speed limit. Almost instantly, the system spit out a modification blueprint based on my requests. But when I saw the sheer workload, there was no way I was getting that done anytime soon. So, I had to choke down my excitement and shift my focus over to Jin Gui's motorcycle instead. The system locked onto his bike, and get this, the damage was sitting at a measly 0.1%. I clicked my tongue in disbelief. I mean, I had literally never worked on a ride this pristine before. Getting right to it, I punched in the modification goal, pure speed. The faster, the better. But when it came to the budget, I paused. I thought it over, and finally set his mod budget to 30,000. Come on, a guy's gotta make a little profit, right? Besides, that last bike I modded with only $500 turned out incredibly badass. 30,000 was basically a small fortune compared to that. The blueprint generated in a flash. Honestly, compared to my crazy land sea air hybrid, this build was a total piece of cake. Without a second thought, I grabbed my wrench and went straight to work. I finally managed to wrap it up just before the sun went down. Dusting off my hands, I pulled up the contact info the butler left me and gave young Master Jin a call. It wasn't long at all before I heard the screech of tires slamming on the brakes outside. Jin Gui swaggered straight through the front doors. The second he stepped inside, his eyes locked onto the motorcycle gleaming with golden light right in the middle of the shop. His eyes completely lit up with wild, absolute obsession. The entire chassis was coated in a brilliant, mirror-finish gilded gold. Even under the dim indoor lights, it radiated pure, luxurious metallic fire. But the craziest part was the design. I ditched the traditional two-wheel setup entirely. Instead, the whole beast was supported by one massive, hubless mega wheel. The visual impact was absolutely off the charts. It was, quite literally, every man's ultimate fantasy on wheels. After a long pause, Jin Gui turned to look at me. "Man, you're absolutely incredible. Name your price. How much?" Seeing him so straightforward, I bit my lip and hesitantly replied, 2 million. I said it with zero confidence, considering the parts only cost me 30,000. But to my surprise, Jin Gui just nodded without missing a beat. "Done. Butler, swipe the card." Hearing that, I instantly realized I had aimed way too low, but I still warned him. "Mr. Jin, don't you want to test ride it first?" Jin Gui just waved it off and flashed me a wildly arrogant smirk. "I trust you." With that, he slipped his sunglasses back on and strode away. The butler smoothly pulled out a card, stepped up, and smiled at me. I've served the young master for many years, and I've never seen him trust anyone like this, except you. I couldn't help but twitch my mouth. Something about his butler just felt off. Anyway, Once Jin Gui shipped the bike back to his private island, he couldn't wait to hit the coastal circuit for a test run. On the dashboard, the speedometer skyrocketed. 230, 280, 320. Jin Gui's breathing started getting heavy. He cranked the throttle even harder. 370, 450, 520. The speed just kept climbing like there was absolutely no limit. He felt a rush of adrenaline like never before, but it kept getting faster. And Jin Gui actually started to panic. This kind of speed completely shattered everything he knew. Everything around him started warping and blurring together, like he was tearing straight into another dimension. What kind of motorcycle was this? It was basically a low-flying jet straight out of the future. His crew noticed it too. Jin Gui, who had been nothing but a blurry streak, seemed to completely vanish into thin air. They couldn't track him at all. In an instant, total panic broke out. Meanwhile, I was busy tuning up my own ride. Since I actually wanted to drive it on the streets, and didn't want to draw too much attention, I scrapped the system's flashy exterior upgrade plans. I only worked on the guts of the car. It took me nearly 24 hours straight, but I finally finished the build. Even though it looked completely average on the outside, practically identical to when I bought it, the entire core was a completely different beast. Since this was my personal ride, I needed to give it a totally badass name. I stared at the pitch-black sedan. I racked my brain for a while, and then, bam, it hit me. I'll just call it Little Black. Not only did it fit perfectly, but it was incredibly catchy. I popped the door open and slid into the driver's seat. I pressed my finger against the scanner, and punched my passcode into the main console. Instantly, a robotic voice echoed through the cabin. Identity verified. Now switching to owner mode. Smiling, I fired up the engine. Owner mode unlocked every single crazy feature this car had to offer. Without it, it was just your everyday, boring family sedan. Pretty soon, I rolled up to a remote beach. The place was totally deserted, making it the perfect spot to test out the aquatic drive function. I stomped on the gas and launched the car straight into the ocean. It cruised right over the waves like a luxury yacht. But that wasn't all. It could also dive straight down into the deep blue. Sitting inside, watching the underwater world glide past my windows, I felt unbelievably surreal, until a blaring alarm suddenly ripped through the cabin. Little Black warning. Oxygen levels depleted. Please return to the surface immediately. Since I had literally just finished the build, I hadn't gotten around to installing an oxygen supply yet. Bummed out, I breached the surface, ready to move on and test out the flight capabilities. Little Black, initiate instant transformation. The second the words left my mouth, two massive wings slid out from the sides of the car, and the rear thrusters ignited with a blinding blue flame. Right after a loud roar, Little Black slowly lifted off and hovered right there in midair. Staring at the view outside the window, I took a deep, excited breath. I steered Little Black, soaring freely over the ocean. Meanwhile, at a certain military base, radar alarms blared out, plunging the entire base into high alert. The 2nd Battalion commander, He Zhang, glared at the radar and barked out, "Quick! Contact all the military labs and research facilities. Find out if they're test flying some new gear without filing a report." After making a round of calls, a soldier looked up with a grim expression and reported back. "Commander, we've confirmed it. None of the major labs or military plants are running flight tests." Everyone turned pale at the news. Could it be an enemy drone sent to spy on us? Just then, one of the soldiers asked, "Commander, should we shoot it down?" He Zhang stared at the radar screen, watching the unidentified flying object hovering over the ocean. He thought for a second and ordered, "Deploy our drones to investigate. Right now, let's see what the hell this thing is. Also, get the missiles ready to launch. If this thing even looks like it's heading for the city, shoot it down immediately." On my end, seeing that it was getting late, I slowly descended back down to the water. With a press of a button, Little Black transformed back into a black sedan, and I drove straight onto the highway. By the time the military drones arrived, they found absolutely nothing in that airspace. The radar alerts vanished, and all they could see from a distance was just a black sedan out for a scenic drive. Over an hour later, I finished the test drive and headed back to the auto shop. Honestly, I was super happy with Little Black's performance. The only problem was the gas mileage. It was way too high. With today's gas prices, I couldn't afford to drive this thing. Man, if only it didn't need gas. Just as I thought that, my eyes suddenly lit up. What if I install a micronuclear reactor in the car? Then I wouldn't have to worry about the range at all. Unfortunately, the system ruthlessly shot down my idea. Once again, my level was too low. I let out a frustrated sigh. Who knows when I'll finally be able to level up? Just then, a young guy walked into the shop. I looked up and realized it was my cousin, Lin Jia. Hey man, what brings you here? He pulled an invitation card from his pocket, handed it to me, and smiled. Xiao Wei, Ru Yan and I are getting married soon. Hearing that name, I instantly cringed. I rolled my eyes and said, wait, hasn't she just been leading you on, saying she only sees you as a brother? Why is she suddenly willing to marry you now? Hearing that, Lin Jia got defensive. He looked at me dead serious and snapped, Xiao Wei, don't talk about her like that. She really loves me, otherwise, why wouldn't she just lead someone else on? I gritted my teeth and just nodded. Fine, it's not my business, so I'll just respect your choice. Seeing me go quiet, Lin Jia let out a heavy sigh, looking totally defeated. Xiao Wei, to be honest, I actually came here to ask for a favor. She's demanding that the wedding car has to be a Lamborghini, but I've checked so many rental places, and none of them have it. Your family has been fixing cars for years, you must know some people. Xiao Wei, you have to help me. I was completely speechless. I honestly couldn't hold back anymore. Bro, be real, look at our family's financial situation. Where the hell am I supposed to find a Lamborghini? Don't you think she's asking for too much? No. It's not her fault, Xiao Wei, it's on me. Her absolute favorite car is a Lamborghini. She's already being so understanding by not forcing me to buy one. It's my fault for not even being able to find the car she likes. Xiao Wei, please, I'm begging you. Seeing Lin Jia acting so pathetic and desperate, I just didn't have the heart to be harsh. Bro, I seriously don't have those kinds of connections. But hey, if you're up for it, leave your car here and I'll try turning it into a Lamborghini. Lin Jia blinked, thinking it over for a long moment, remembering he'd spent 2 whole days searching for this car without any luck. He finally gritted his teeth and nodded. Alright, cousin, my happiness is entirely in your hands now. Just try to make it look as real as possible, okay? With that, he drove his beat-up old Jetta right into the shop and went off to handle his own business. I just stared at his car and let out a heavy sigh. What can you do when you're stuck with a cousin who's utterly blinded by love? But honestly, if I just changed the exterior, there wouldn't be much of a challenge, and it wouldn't boost my system level. So, I decided to go all out on this upgrade. Consider it my wedding gift to him. In the blink of an eye, the big wedding day arrived. Outside, the atmosphere was festive and lively, but Lin Jia was pacing anxiously, clutching his phone. Why isn't Xiao Wei here yet? He muttered, seeing him in such a state. His parents were getting pretty frustrated. Alright, that's enough. Just hurry over to the Liu family and pick up your bride. The wedding is already set. I refused to believe they'd cancel the whole thing just over a car. They hurried him into the wedding car, and the grand convoy set off toward the Liu family residence. Leading the pack was a Mercedes E-Class sedan, which was easily the most expensive car in the entire fleet. Meanwhile, Liu Ruyan was sitting by the window. As soon as she caught sight of the approaching convoy, her face instantly fell. Without even waiting for Lin Jia to come up, she stomped her way right down the stairs. She launched right into a furious tirade. Lin Jia, what did you promise me? Where is the wedding car we agreed on? You expect me to marry you in this piece of junk? How could you do this to me? Lin Jia rushed forward, desperately grabbing her hand. He pleaded with her frantically. Ruyan, I swear I tried my absolute best. I just couldn't find a single place that rents out a Lamborghini. Look, no matter what kind of car it is, it gets us there, right? Our love is what really matters, isn't it? Lin Jia, if you can't even handle this one tiny thing, it just proves you don't care about me at all. The wedding is off. With that, she turned on her heel, stormed back upstairs, and slammed the door on everyone. The crowd stood there in absolute shock. Ajee, stop indulging this terrible attitude of hers. If she won't marry you, fine, let's just go. Seriously, is she marrying a man or marrying a car? This is just blatant gold digging. Ajee, wake up and stop fooling yourself. Hearing this, Lin Jia clenched his fists tightly. He spun around, glaring furiously at his family and friends. That's enough from all of you. Ruyan is a wonderful girl. I'm the one who let her down. The crowd just shook their heads, completely lost for words. But right at that moment, a deep, powerful engine roar echoed from down the street. A sleek, gorgeous Lamborghini rolled up smoothly, coming to a halt right in front of the crowd. Everyone's eyes were instantly glued to the breathtaking supercar. I parked, then practically jumped out of the driver's seat. Bro, I am so sorry I'm late. No, you're not late. You're right on time. Lin Jia's eyes were practically brimming with excited tears. He immediately tilted his head back and hollered at the window. Rian, come out here and look at this. Hearing his shout, Rian peeked out from her upstairs window. Sure enough, there was the Lamborghini of her dreams. She threw open the door and scrambled back down the stairs. Gee, you know it's not actually about the car. I was just terrified that you didn't care about me anymore. Seeing how much effort you put in, I'm completely satisfied now. Hearing this, Lin Jia looked incredibly moved. I just stood there in absolute awe. You couldn't even blame my cousin for falling for it. This girl was just playing on a whole other level. After surviving the wedding, I absolutely sprinted back to my garage. Finishing his car yesterday had unexpectedly bumped my system straight up to level 4. Which meant I could finally start building the miniature nuclear power device. For the next few days, I threw myself entirely into the blueprints the system provided. Tinkering endlessly with the little gadget, after a solid week of grinding, I actually managed to pull it off. Looking at this little gadget right in front of me, barely bigger than the palm of my hand, I was absolutely thrilled. With this thing around, I'd never have to pay another electricity bill. Just as I was happily getting ready to hook this baby up to Little Black, my neighbor Auntie Lee suddenly burst into the shop. Xiao Wei, quick, change my battery. You were closed last time, so I went to the shop on the front street. That shady crook must have given me a cheap knockoff. It keeps dying after just a few miles. Hurry up, I'm in a rush to pick up my grandson. Hearing that, I felt a bit stuck. I didn't have any new batteries in the shop, but suddenly, I looked at the little gadget in my hand. And a crazy idea popped into my head. Alright, Auntie Lee, I'll get it swapped right now. Don't you worry, this one will outlast anything else on the market. Saying that, I grabbed my wrench, and straight up installed the miniature nuclear reactor I just built right into Auntie Lee's scooter. Oh, by the way, Auntie Lee, I heard battery thieves are everywhere lately, so I went ahead and locked it down. Now you won't have to worry about it getting swiped. I mean, come on, if it was just a regular battery, whatever. But this is a literal nuclear reactor. If some clueless thief actually managed to snatch it, we'd be in massive trouble. Hearing that, Auntie Lee happily pulled out her cash. You old neighbors are always the most reliable. Then, she hopped on her scooter and rushed off to pick up her grandson. Along the way, Auntie Lee kept checking the power gauge and noticed the battery level hadn't dropped a single bit. It really was way tougher than her old one. But what she had no idea about was that the power gauge was basically just for show now. That scooter could keep running on this charge until the whole frame fell apart. Soon enough, Auntie Lee picked up her grandson, Tutu. While passing by a local grocery store, Auntie Lee left her little grandson sitting on the scooter just like usual, and popped inside to grab some veggies for dinner. But to her absolute horror, the moment she stepped back out, she saw a man grabbing Tutu from the scooter seat and shoving him into the back of a car parked on the curb. Auntie Lee turned pale with panic and screamed, "Let go of my grandson." But the guys were just too fast. In a flash, they started the engine. Without hesitating for a second, Auntie Lee gunned her scooter and chased after them. Meanwhile, the guy in the backseat, pinning Tutu down, yelled at the driver, "Step on it. Lose that old lady, right now." These two were professional child traffickers. They had been staking out Auntie Lee for a long time, and thought they could pull it off unnoticed. But they didn't expect her to finish her grocery shopping so quickly today. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror, letting out a cold scoff. "Relax, I'll dust her right now." As if her piece of junk scooter could ever keep up with us. "Not a chance in hell. Once we're out of the city, we'll swap cars." Saying that, he slammed his foot on the gas. The car surged forward, instantly putting distance between them and Auntie Lee. Seeing this, Auntie Lee twisted her throttle to the absolute max. Very quickly, she realized her scooter was actually overtaking a bunch of speeding cars on the road. The men in the getaway car were completely dumbfounded. How is that even possible? I'm already doing 100. How is she gaining on us? The guy in the back holding Tutu furrowed his brows tightly, biting his lip. "Don't panic. If we draw the cops' attention, we're screwed. Just hold this speed. It's just an electric scooter. It's gonna die any minute." The driver nodded, steadying his nerves as they barreled toward the city limits. But after driving for a while longer, the two of them realized something was seriously wrong. By all logic, a normal scooter should have run out of juice ages ago. How the hell is that thing still going? Auntie Lee was noticing the weirdness too. But right now, she couldn't care less. Her only thought was getting her grandson back and tearing those kidnappers to shreds. Without even realizing it, she had chased the getaway car all the way into the neighboring city. By this point, the two guys in the car were completely losing their minds. What the actual hell? Is that scooter running on cheat codes? How the heck is she so fast? The man in the driver's seat wiped the sweat off his forehead. Glancing at the dashboard, panic set in. Crap, we're almost out of gas. The guy in the back seat couldn't sit still either. They had already burned through half a tank of gas. It was absolutely insane that the scooter behind them was still going. He looked around at the deserted wasteland. Gritting his teeth, he snapped, "Pull the car over. We're gonna finish her off." Soon, the car slowly pulled over to the side of the road, and the two men stepped out. Furious, they yelled at Aunt Lee, "Damn it, did you really have to chase us this hard? If you leave right now, we might just consider letting you live." He threatened Aunt Lee with the dagger in his hand. Aunt Lee parked her scooter by the road. Staring fearlessly at the two thugs, she rolled up her sleeves and marched straight toward them. Enraged by her boldness, the man lunged forward, swinging his dagger. Aunt Lee effortlessly dodged to the side, snatched his dagger, and slammed him down with a brutal shoulder throw. The impact knocked him out cold. Seeing this, the other guy was completely stunned. He hesitated, wondering if he should jump in the car and run. But Aunt Lee had already grabbed him by the back of the neck. In a flash, he was pinned to the ground. Aunt Lee looked at the two of them and dusted off her hands. "When I was fighting in tournaments, you two brats were still in diapers." Then, she opened the car door, scooped up the wailing little tutu, and finally pulled out her phone to call the cops. Not long after, the local police arrived at the scene, only to find the two kidnappers. Beaten black and blue, huddled by the car sobbing. Aunt Lee patted Tutu to comfort him as she explained, "Sorry about that, they kept trying to run away, so I had to hit them a little harder than expected." The cops looked Aunt Lee up and down, their eyes wide with absolute shock. When they heard she had chased them for over 200 kilometers on a scooter, their jaws nearly hit the floor. Even Aunt Lee was surprised. She hadn't realized she had actually chased them that far. By the time everything was sorted out, the sky was completely dark. Since they were so far from home, Aunt Lee called a truck to haul her scooter back. Finally, peace and quiet were restored. But late that night, a dark figure sneaked into the bike shed downstairs. Looking at the parked scooters, a wicked smirk crept across his face. The man was none other than the legendary thief Wu Da, famously known as the battery snatcher. Moving with lightning speed, he quickly swiped the batteries from several scooters. However, when he got to one particular scooter, Wu Da couldn't help but frown. "I've stolen batteries from all over the country, but this is the first time I've ever seen one this stubborn." This instantly fired up his competitive spirit, but to his shock, even after multiple tries, he still couldn't crack the battery's safety lock. Utterly frustrated, he pulled out a pen and paper and left a sticky note. Early the next morning, as soon as Aunt Lee came downstairs, she saw a crowd gathered in the bike shed, buzzing with chatter. She walked over to listen in, only to find out there had been a massive wave of battery thefts in the neighborhood. Aunt Lee panicked and rushed over to check her own scooter. To her relief, the battery was still there, but there was a note stuck to it. "You made me taste failure for the very first time, but I will not give up. Your battery is mine." Aunt Lee frowned reading it. She thought this battery thief was way too dramatic. Seeing that Aunt Lee's scooter was perfectly fine, the neighbors gathered around, bombarding her with questions. Aunt Lee didn't hold back. In fact, she exaggerated the whole story, making it sound like pure magic. Anyway, by the time I opened my shop, I saw Aunt Lee leading half the neighborhood, completely blocking the entrance to my store. If it weren't for the huge smile on her face, I would have thought she brought a mob to smash my place to pieces. After hearing Auntie Lee's side of the story, I was honestly pretty shocked. I never expected thieves to be this brazen nowadays. I mean, stealing over a dozen batteries in one night? And they even had the nerve to leave a taunting note. But with so many missing batteries, replacing all of them with miniature nuclear reactors just wasn't realistic. So, I told everyone to leave their bikes at my shop and sent them on their way. Then, I called up some buddies in the business, got over a dozen batteries delivered, and swapped them out. But that left me with a huge problem. If these folks get their batteries stolen again, wouldn't that completely ruin my shop's reputation? I locked up the shop, hopped into my car, Little Black, and staked out the road right next to their neighborhood. It was the perfect spot to keep an eye on the bike shed. Even though Auntie Lee and the others already called the cops, I knew the police would have to prioritize if a more serious crime came up. So, just to be safe, I had to keep watch myself. But for days on end, the thief was nowhere to be seen. Eventually, even the cops pulled out, leaving only the neighborhood folks on guard duty. Then, one night, right as I was dozing off in my car, suddenly, a guy with a backpack, super shady figure, crept right into the bike shed. The second he poked his head out, the neighbors spotted him. "You little punk, we've been waiting for you. Give us our batteries back, right now." With that, the crowd swarmed in, blocking Wooda's only way out. They were just seconds away from grabbing him, but unexpectedly, Wooda just spun right around. Using his bare hands and feet, he scrambled up to the roof of the shed in a flash. Then, with one massive leap, he bounded onto the wall next to it. He even had the nerve to look back at the crowd and sneer. "See ya later, suckers. I'll catch you another time." The whole neighborhood was absolutely stunned. Nobody expected a measly battery thief to pull off moves like that. Seeing their dropped jaws, Wooda didn't even look back as he kicked off his little parkour show. I mean, come on, if he didn't have those skills, how could he live up to the title of the Great Battery Bandit? In the blink of an eye, he was out of the complex. But suddenly, he noticed something blocking his path. A hovering, jet-black flying car. Wooda froze in his tracks. He thought it was just too dark and his eyes were playing tricks on him. But when he squinted, yep, it was literally a black sedan with wings. He panicked for a second, then immediately whipped around and made a mad dash for the nearby lake. He actually had a mini scuba tank strapped to him. He figured he could easily just dive in and escape underwater. Meanwhile, sitting in the car, I was getting a headache. This guy was completely off the rails. I could easily keep up with him, but actually grabbing him was another story. Just as I was about to dial 911, I saw him yank that mini oxygen tank out of his bag and plunge headfirst right into the lake. I just let out a little smirk. Did he really think he could get away that easily? How naive. I retracted Little Black's wings, hit the gas, and plunged straight into the water after him. Down in the water, Wooda took one look back and totally lost his mind. What the hell even is that thing? Not only could it fly, but it could act as a submarine too. He always bragged about being one step ahead, keeping all sorts of escape gadgets stashed in his backpack. Hell, he even had a paraglider in there. But going up against a high-tech land, sea, and air machine? He was completely helpless. Unless he could magically dig a tunnel to the center of the earth, he was screwed. For the first time ever, Wooda felt genuine terror. Dude, I just stole some batteries. Was it really necessary to bring out the heavy sci-fi artillery? Seeing that his oxygen tank was almost empty, Wooda quickly breached the surface and scrambled onto the shore, collapsing on the grass and gasping for air. I pulled Little Black over to the curb, looked down at him soaking wet like a drowned rat, and said, "Well, you gonna keep running? If not, I'm calling the cops." Wooda sat up and stared at me intensely, looking like he just made some major life decision. "I'll admit, you beat me on the tech today, fair and square, but just you wait. There's plenty of real talent locked up in the slammer. Just wait, I'll do some serious upgrading on the inside, and then I'm coming back to settle the score with you." The cops showed up shortly after and dragged Wooda away. Our neighborhood's e-bike batteries were safe at last. I just wasn't sure if my car had been exposed online yet. But before I even had the time to stress about it, the very next day, right after I opened up the shop, I saw a familiar minivan slowly pulling up. I was totally shocked. Didn't Mom and Dad say they were going on a trip for a while? It had only been a few days. While I was still standing there dumbfounded, my dad stepped out of the van. "You little brat, is that the look you give us when we come home? Out with it, did you do something bad?" I walked over, scratching my head awkwardly, and forced the most dutiful smile I could muster. "Boss Lin, how come you guys are back so soon? Why didn't you stay out and enjoy yourselves a little longer? HMPH, we just came back for a few days to check if you've been slacking off at the shop." As he said that, Dad noticed Little Black parked right by the door. He walked over, patted the hood, and asked, "What's wrong with this car? Can you handle the repairs, or do you need old Lin to step in and show you how it's done?" Dad naturally assumed it belonged to a customer. After all, I hadn't told them about buying a car yet. But figuring I'd be driving it around a lot from now on, I decided not to keep it a secret. Hee, Dad, right after you guys left, I scored a huge gig and made $30,000. So I went down to the used car market and scored this ride. It only set me back 10 grand. Well, look at you. You young folks really don't hold back when it comes to spending. Your old man has been driving that van for 10 years, and I still can't bring myself to replace it. Toss me the keys, let me take her for a spin. Hearing that he wanted to drive my car, I hesitated. Dad's face dropped instantly when he saw my hesitation. You little brat, I've raised you for all these years. And you won't even let me drive your car? I quickly let out an awkward laugh and handed the keys over with both hands. Since the master mode wasn't activated, the car drove just like any normal vehicle. I was just worried he'd try to confiscate it. And sure enough, after taking it for a lap, Dad stepped out, absolutely beaming. Shall we? This car of yours is seriously amazing. I've worked my tail off for years, and I've never driven anything this nice. I kept nodding along, completely refusing to take the bait. I had poured way too much energy into modifying this thing. Besides, this was my very first ride. I was already emotionally attached to it, okay? Seeing my reaction, Dad rolled his eyes and grumbled, I'm dropping hints as clearly as I can overhear. Aren't you gonna offer it to me? I played dumb. Boss Lin, whatever do you mean? I have absolutely no idea. Dad let out a cold scoff and dragged me over to his beat-up old minivan. Look at my van. I've been driving this junker for over a decade. It's practically begging to go to the scrapyard. My eye twitched at his guilt trip, but then, a brilliant idea flashed into my mind. I immediately flashed him a grin. Boss Lin, you seriously don't know a treasure when you see one. This is a Wuling Hongguang, the legendary god-tier minivan. It just hasn't unlocked its true potential yet. With just a few little tweaks, those fancy Mercedes-Benz luxury cars would look like absolute toys next to it. Only a highly successful man like you, father, is truly worthy of wielding its power. My absolute nonsense somehow seemed to win Dad over. His eyes practically sparkled as he asked, Are you serious? Is the Wuling Hongguang actually that legendary? Duh, but only the real gearheads know about it. I don't go around telling just anyone. Dad burst out laughing, slapped me on the shoulder, and grinned. Great, well said, my boy. In that case, I'm gifting this legendary van to you. I'll take one for the team and suffer through driving your used little black. No need to get emotional. It's just what a good father does for his son. My eye twitched. Damn it, the old fox really outplayed me. Fast forward a few days later. Dad smugly drove off in my little black, leaving me staring hopelessly at the beaten-up Wuling Hongguang sitting in front of me. I simply pulled down the shop's roller door and focused completely on modifying this vehicle. After 7 days and 7 nights of hard work, I finally took this Wuling Hongguang and successfully turned it into a real-life transformer. This baby is powered by a micronuclear reactor and equipped with highly advanced AI. Once everything was finished, I opened the garage doors and drove the van out to a remote area. I was just about to start testing when, suddenly, my dad called. The second I answered, he yelled excitedly, Shall we? Someone offered $1 million for your used car. Hearing this, I immediately frowned. I only spent $10,000 buying Little Black. Even with the modifications, its basic functions were just slightly better than before. There was no way it was worth $1 million. If they were willing to pay that much, they definitely knew Little Black wasn't just some ordinary van. Realizing this, I quickly asked, Dad, where are they right now? Don't sell it yet, I'm heading over right now. But on the other end of the line, my dad just laughed happily. They left ages ago. It's $1 million. Why would I hesitate? We can't miss out on a sucker like that. Am I right, son? I closed my eyes in absolute disbelief and snapped. Dad, how could you just sell my car without asking me first? He sounded caught off guard by my anger. After all, to him, selling a completely ordinary used van for $1 million was like hitting the jackpot. Take it easy, shall we? The buyer said if we changed our minds, we could ask for it back anytime. Worst comes to worst, we just refund them. I furrowed my brow. Something about this buyer felt really off. I immediately said, Dad, give me their phone number. I'll contact them myself. Soon after, I called the number my dad sent me and got through to the buyer. Hello, my dad just told me you bought a van from him for $1 million. Actually, that van is mine. Is there any way I can get it back? I'll fully refund the 1 million, plus any penalty fees. I still had plenty of the money Mr. Jin had given me left over. So buying the van back shouldn't be an issue. However, the guy on the phone didn't sound surprised at all. He just casually replied, "Sure thing. But there's no need for a penalty fee. Let's set up a place to meet." I had a sneaking suspicion that something was wrong. It was almost as if he knew I was going to back out. Could they have already uncovered the secrets hidden inside the van? Did they simply not need it anymore? I shook my head, deciding not to overthink it. Following the GPS location he sent, I arrived at the spot to find two men waiting for me. One of them was around 40 years old, wearing gold-rimmed glasses. He looked incredibly refined. Seeing me approach, the man in the glasses smiled. "Hello there, you must be our young friend, Lin Wei. My name is Li Changsho." Hearing that name, my brow twitched. I took a closer look at his face, and suddenly, my eyes went wide as I gasped in shock. "Li Changsho? You're academician Li Changsho from the Dragon Academy of Sciences?" Li Changsho smiled and nodded, not surprised in the slightest that I recognized him. As the youngest academician at the academy, he was constantly featured on official TV networks. Anyone with even a slight interest in technology would know exactly who he was. My mind was completely blown. I never expected that the person who dropped 1 million to buy a little black from my dad would actually be someone from the Dragon Academy. That meant, I had already caught the attention of the National Science Academy. Just then, the man standing next to Li Changsho spoke up. "Allow me to introduce myself. I'm with the military. My name is He Zhang." "Excuse me, were you the one flying that aircraft over the South China Sea 13 days ago?" My heart skipped a beat when I heard that. Damn, I was too careless. I completely forgot the military had radar. Seeing my reaction, He Zhang immediately knew he had his guy. They had searched the entire South China Sea that day, but found absolutely nothing. The only clue was 2 tire tracks left on the beach. As unbelievable as it seemed, they followed that trail anyway, only to find it belonged to a completely ordinary sedan. They were actually about to give up, but on the night Wu De was arrested, they saw that black sedan with their own eyes, flying into the sky and diving into the water. It was clearly the UFO they spotted that day. The entire military district was absolutely stunned. They immediately called in the experts from the Dragon Science Academy overnight. But after agonizing over it for days, they still couldn't figure out how the heck this thing actually worked. In the end, He Zhang sent someone to buy the car directly from old Lin. Yet, surprisingly, even with Li Changsho's brilliance, they still couldn't reverse engineer the tech. Thinking of this, He Zhang's tone softened a bit. "Comrade Lin Wei, you really don't need to worry. We just want to confirm a few things with you, and we'd also like to ask, who exactly invented this car?" Hearing this, I let out a massive sigh of relief. It made sense that the higher-ups would notice the car, but I didn't expect to get busted the second I showed my face. That was way too fast. "I guess you really can't hide anything from the government." I admitted it without hesitation. I modified it. "That's not illegal, right?" Hearing my direct answer, both He Zhang and Li Changsho took a deep breath. They looked at me with even more intensity now. Li Changsho's eyes were practically sparkling. "Comrade Lin Wei, we are incredibly fascinated by this car. Although our country's current technology can also build an amphibious flying car, the tech is nowhere near this advanced. So, on behalf of the Dragon Science Academy, I'd like to propose a partnership. Would you be open to that?" I nodded, accepting without a second thought. After all, in the heart of every citizen, helping our country grow stronger is the ultimate honor. Shortly after, I followed the two of them to a research facility out in the suburbs. Li Changsho led me straight into a conference room. Inside, several top-tier experts from the academy were already waiting. When Li Changsho introduced me as the mastermind behind the amphibious flying car, every single person in that room looked at me in total disbelief. "Changsho, are you sure about this? This kid looks like he's barely in his 20s. Yeah, there's no way he could be the one who built that amphibious flying car." Honestly, regarding their doubts, Li Changsho himself could barely believe it either. But He Zhang's investigation was bulletproof. Knowing this, Li Changsho looked at the group and said, "I know you all have a lot of questions right now. That's exactly why I invited Comrade Lin Wei here. He's going to clear everything up for us." With that, Li Changsho gestured for me to take the floor. I didn't hold anything back. Thanks to the modification blueprints rewarded by the system, I had mastered everything from the theory to the hands-on assembly. I knew the tech inside and out, so explaining the mechanics to them was an absolute breeze. The experts, however, were completely spellbound. One of the older academicians adjusted his glasses with a trembling hand. "Young comrade Lin Wei, could you tell us, where on earth did you learn all of this?" The others immediately nodded in agreement. To them, the young man standing right in front of them had reached the absolute peak in both theoretical knowledge and practical engineering. Honestly, it was terrifyingly impressive. Seeing their confused and awestruck stares, I thought for a second and replied, "I've just always loved mechanics since I was a kid, and since my family runs an auto repair shop, I just put my ideas into practice. I honestly didn't expect to end up building a car like this." But to my surprise, the explanation I thought was perfectly reasonable only left everyone even more shocked. Without any formal training, just by figuring it out on his own, he actually managed to build a fully functional amphibious flying car. The kid is an absolute genius. No, more like a prodigy. This time, everyone was completely blown away. Anyway, after the whole car situation was sorted out, I thought I could finally leave. But then Li Changsho pulled me aside. "Lin Wei, my boy, there's a huge favor I need to ask of you. I wonder if you could help us out. It's actually right up your alley with your line of work." Hearing that, my eyes lit up. I looked right at him and asked, "What, did your car break down?" "No problem at all. Where is it? I'll fix it right up for you." "It's not a car. Just come with me, and you'll see," he replied. He led me to a helicopter parked right in the middle of the square. I couldn't help but click my tongue. Honestly, I felt like we could have just taken my little black. Now that it's officially cleared, I should be allowed to drive it, right? It's way more comfortable than a choppy helicopter. Haha, Lin Wei, my boy, of course I know your car has a flight mode. But the place we're heading to strictly forbids any outside vehicles from entering. Hearing that, I started piecing things together in my head. Soon enough, the helicopter windows were completely blacked out. I couldn't see a single thing outside. That just confirmed my suspicions even more. After what felt like ages, we finally touched down. The second I stepped off, I saw a squad of heavily armed, dead serious soldiers standing guard. Mr. Lee and I waited there for a moment, and then a few men started walking toward us. The guy in front was totally ripped, with general stars shining on his shoulders. The moment he approached, Mr. Lee called out, "Old Zhang, take us to see the package." Zhang Guozhang frowned slightly, shooting a highly suspicious glare right at me. Seeing this, Mr. Lee quickly explained, "This is the maintenance expert I brought in, Lin Wei." "What? This kid is your so-called expert?" Zhang Guozhang was clearly caught off guard. He looked me up and down a few times, clearly not buying it at all. Mr. Lee just gave his shoulder a reassuring pat. "Hey, true brilliance knows no age. Stop making such a fuss, you're gonna scare the poor kid. Don't you trust my judgment?" Seeing that Mr. Lee was vouching for me like that, old Zhang finally looked away. He led us into a heavily guarded warehouse. The place was massive. Right in the middle sat something huge, draped under a black tarp. Old Zhang raised his hand to signal his men. Immediately, someone stepped up and pulled the tarp away. The moment I saw what was underneath, my eyes started twitching uncontrollably. If you wanted to be nice, you'd call this thing a fighter jet. If you were being honest, it was just a pile of scrap metal. Mr. Lee caught my expression and looked a little embarrassed. "Lin Wei, my boy, the reason we brought you all the way out here today is to see if there's any way you can fix this jet." I was absolutely floored. I'm just a guy who fixes cars, and they want me to fix a literal fighter jet? And a completely totaled one at that. That's when old Zhang spoke up. "This is a fighter jet we managed to capture from the Eagles. It's supposedly the most advanced stealth fighter on the entire planet. Unfortunately, it took some heavy damage. We've tried absolutely everything, but we can't fix it, let alone reverse engineer the tech to build our own." Hearing that, I just rubbed my nose. Who would have thought this hunk of junk was actually the most powerful jet on Earth? Guess I still had a lot to learn. I turned to him and sighed, "Mr. Lee, I really don't think I'm cut out for this." But he cut me off right there. Looking me dead in the eyes, he said, "I see true potential in you. Now, I know that science requires strict rigor. But sometimes, I believe in the miracles of intuition. So, I want you to give it a shot." Hearing that really moved me. Beside us, Zhang Guozhang couldn't help but furrow his brow. So neither of them actually has a clue what they're doing. It feels like they're just treating this as a game. But out of respect for Li Changsho, Zhang Guozhang swallowed his words and kept quiet. After all, if this fighter jet couldn't be fixed, it would just end up as a pile of scrap metal anyway. Might as well give it a try, I thought, finally making up my mind. For one, I didn't want to betray Lee Changxiu's trust. And for another, I really just wanted to see if I could do it. Everyone has a duty to their country. Sure, this wasn't exactly some life or death national crisis. But if it's something that helps our nation progress, I should definitely do my part. Having thought it through, I looked at the two of them and said, alright, I'll give it my best shot. But, I'm used to working totally alone when I fix cars, and it's the exact same for fighter jets. While I'm working, I don't want absolutely anyone interfering or breathing down my neck. Lee Changxiu didn't really get it, but he respected my boundaries anyway. Afterwards, I used Zhang Guozhang's phone to give my parents a quick call to let them know what was up. Then, I cleared everyone out of the area. Once they were all completely gone, I used my system to run a full scan on the jet. A 78% damage rate. No wonder Lee Changxiu and his guys were totally stumped. But when it came to setting the upgrade goals, I hesitated. I was rebuilding a fighter jet for our country. Naturally, I wanted to load it up with all sorts of crazy next-gen tech. But to my surprise, my system level wasn't high enough. With no other choice, I set the upgrade budget and punched in 2 million. Literally every single penny in my savings account. The system quickly generated a modification plan. Looking over the performance specs, it might not have been as insane as the ships in sci-fi movies, but in the real world, it was more than enough to make our nation the absolute ruler of the skies. For the next stretch of time, I poured my absolute heart and soul into upgrading that jet. It took almost a full 2 weeks before the repairs and modifications were finally complete. When Zhang Guozhang and Li Changxiu heard the news, they were absolutely thrilled and practically sprinted over to the hangar. But the moment they laid eyes on the jet inside, they were completely dumbfounded. It featured a seamlessly integrated flying wing design, with the fuselage and wings blending together perfectly. Sleek lines were as razor-sharp as a blade, radiating this intense, incredibly futuristic aura of pure dominance. But honestly, it looked almost too futuristic. It didn't even look like a fighter jet anymore. It looked more like an over-engineered scale model, and it looked absolutely nothing like the American jet it used to be. The two of them stood frozen for a long time. Finally, Li Changxiu gulped and broke the silence. Lin Wei, are you absolutely sure this thing can fly? Zhang Guozhang also snapped out of his daze, and stared at me with wide, expectant eyes. I just looked at them and smiled. Well, we won't know until we take her for a spin, right? Hearing that, Zhang Guozhang instantly started waving a pilot over. But I just waved him off. No need, this jet is equipped with an A-I autonomous combat system. It can be completely remote controlled, and down the line, when you guys start mass producing them, you can network them and control dozens of jets all at once. Hearing that, sheer disbelief washed over Zhang Guozhang's face. If we could really pull this off, this jet would completely rewrite the rules of aerial warfare. It would mean absolute zero casualties. While Zhang Guozhang was still standing there stunned, I grabbed my laptop and walked out to the open clearing in front of the hangar. After furiously typing away on my keyboard for a second, the jet inside let out a low hum and immediately began taxiing out of the hangar doors all on its own. Zhang Guozhang swallowed hard, turning his head to look at me. Hold on, I'll clear a flight path for a test run right now. No need to go through all that trouble. Just sit back and watch. I grabbed Zhang Guozhang's arm, and then, on my computer, I quickly hit a few buttons, and suddenly, the fighter jet in front of us let out a massive roar. Then, as if lifted by some invisible force, the entire jet rose vertically right off the ground. Everyone there just stared, completely wide-eyed. Their eyes were glued to the jet as it slowly ascended, right up until it hovered completely still in midair. Nobody even had time to process what was happening. There was no taxiing, no exhaust flames. It left the ground as smoothly and swiftly as a hovering alien warship. Li Changxiu practically forgot how to breathe. Vertical liftoff, hovering in midair. This is exactly what we envisioned for the next generation fighter. How is it suddenly a reality? After all, they hadn't even cracked the theoretical stage yet. Zhang Guozhang was so thrilled his chest was practically heaving. The invention of this fighter jet meant they could finally say goodbye to needing massive airbases. Whether it was an aircraft carrier deck, a makeshift field, or even some rugged mountain terrain, this jet could handle it all with ease. Future battlefield deployments were about to become incredibly flexible and totally free. He never even dared to dream that he'd live to see a fighter jet like this with his own 2 eyes. So much for Uncle Sam's so-called strongest fighter on the planet. Compared to the marvel right in front of them, it was nothing but an absolute joke. Right then, I didn't have time to worry about those two. I just kept piloting the jet. I pulled off all kinds of aerial maneuvers. Pugachev's Cobra, the falling leaf maneuver. It was all a total breeze. Honestly, it was like making the fighter jet dance in aerial ballet. Every single person there was completely blown away. But hey, I wasn't done yet. As my fingers kept dancing across the keyboard, the jet entered its speed testing phase. The crowd watched as a brilliant trail of shock diamonds suddenly erupted from the back of the jet. And in the very next second, the entire fighter blasted forward like a bolt of pure lightning. It vanished from everyone's sight in the absolute blink of an eye. Seeing the jet disappear finally snapped everyone back to reality. Zhang Guojiang and Li Changsho both turned to look at me simultaneously. Lin Wei, what kind of speeds can this baby reach? I didn't say a word. Instead, I just motioned toward the computer screen. The two of them looked over and saw the speed readout climbing at an insane rate. Mach 2.3, Mach 3.8, Mach 5.2, Mach 8.6. Their eyes practically popped out of their heads, completely overwhelmed by absolute shock. The speed just kept climbing. Mach 10.5, Mach 11.7, Mach 13.4. Li Changsho looked like he was about to pass out. And right at that moment, I let out a soft sigh. The speed's still a bit lacking. Hearing me say that, Zhang Guojiang and Li Changsho nearly shattered their teeth from clenching so hard. Let's be real, a standard fighter jet's top speed maxes out around Mach 3. And here I was, complaining that Mach 13.4 wasn't quite cutting it. Talk about an unbelievable humble brag. After a full round of testing, I brought the jet back down for a spot landing. Zhang Guojiang and the rest rushed forward immediately, circling the jet over and over again. They were clicking their tongues in absolute praise, their eyes burning with pure fanaticism. After quite a while, Zhang Guojiang walked over to me, tears welling up in his eyes. Comrade Lin Wei, thank you so much. As a seasoned soldier and a general, nobody understood the true weight of this jet's existence better than he did. This fighter jet was absolutely destined to become the undisputed ruler of the skies on any future battlefield. It would grant the Dragon Nation absolute air superiority, letting them truly stand at the pinnacle of the entire world. Li Changxiu's heart was practically racing with excitement, too. My young friend, Lin Wei, would you happen to have any interest in joining the Dragon Academy of Sciences? Looking right back into Li Changxiu's eager eyes, I just shook my head gently and replied, I appreciate the recognition, Academician Li. But honestly, I'm pretty used to my lazy lifestyle. A place like that really isn't for me. Li Changsho was totally blindsided by my refusal. This was the Dragon Academy of Sciences. Countless people would kill for a spot there. It was the gathering place for the absolute brightest minds in the whole nation. Refusing to give up, he kept pressing. Lin Wei, you probably don't realize just what the Dragon Academy of Sciences really means. At the Academy, you'll have access to absolutely every resource. It would be incredibly beneficial for your future. I knew Academician Li meant well, but I still turned him down. Thank you, Academician Li. I'm well aware of how prestigious the Academy is, of course. And that's exactly why I don't think it's a good fit for me. I just want to do the things I actually enjoy doing. So, thank you for the offer. Academician Li let out a soft sigh. As expected, geniuses always march to the beat of their own drum. Before I left, Zhang Guojiang handed me a Medal of Honor. This medal is reserved only for those who have made monumental contributions. To even qualify for it, even though I didn't fully grasp just how much weight this special Medal of Honor carried, just seeing the sheer envy in everyone's eyes told me it was definitely a huge deal. But aside from the medal, Academician Li also handed me a bank card. Comrade Lin Wei, there are 20 million in this card. It's the payment for repairing the fighter jet. However, this aircraft has far exceeded our wildest imaginations. Moving forward, the Academy will be officially partnering with you on both the Triphibian vehicle and this fighter jet. We're offering you a 30% cut of the profits. I gladly accepted without a second thought. Then, something suddenly crossed my mind. Oh, by the way, Academician Li, I also happen to have a Transformers Autobot. Would you guys be interested in that? Hearing that, Academician Lee was instantly left totally dumbfounded. He couldn't even form a single word. But inside, his mind was absolutely reeling. Such a freakish genius. Such raw, unbelievable talent. He is simply a priceless treasure sent from the heavens to bless our dragon nation.